Hi everyone, I'm Jan from Sew It Online, and what I want to do today for you is I want to review to you the Janome machine. We're going to use the model S5 and we're going to slide over in a little bit to a 9850, which is basically the same machine but adds embroidery. We can decide, well, do you want an embroidery machine? Is that up to you or not? So let's go back to the S5 and let me tell you that if you're buying a basic machine, this is for the person that wants to sew anything and everything through their machine and not have the machine bulk. Meaning, you go over that blue jean seam. Some machines can go over it real fast, but what about going through it smooth? What I like about the S5, it is the lowest price. I call it the baby of the top of the line. Meaning, compared to my $12,000 machine, it's basically the same insides, it's the same power, the same control. You got a lot of the same features. It may not have as many doodads because every $1,000 you're going to spend doodads, right? But I'm one of the people that just want to sew whatever I want to sew. So that's what's important to me, is that it's got power, precision, and control. So if that is what's in your mind, here's the one. If you're going to sew a heavy purse, you're going to sew a leather strap if you want to, blue jeans hem up, and then turn around and sew a bridal gown, you may want to step up to the S5. It'll be a machine that'll be in your household for many years to come. So let me show you my favorite things about it and about sewing nowadays. Sometimes I get a lot of emails and texts that people tell me they're sewing on an old 45-year-old machine, and I'm quite sure they're sewing really well and having a great time, but they don't know what they're missing. So let me just show you a few things here. And we're going to go through the basics, but I promise you it won't take too long. What I want to show you is these features right here. Let's go back to a straight stitch. So I'm going to buzz up here and going to go get 02. How easy is that? It sets its length, it sets its width for me, so I'm sure it's going to reverse. Now when I reverse now, watch. Did you hear that? It cut the threads. Now what did I do? It buried those threads on the bottom. Now, to go back, I have these little guys right here. So I'm going to turn off my automatic. I'm going to show you how it works. And you don't have to use a foot control anymore. A foot control is, I'm used to a foot control. I grew up with a foot control, so I like a foot control. But I've gotten away from it. So I'm not going to use it at all now. So I'm not even plugging in a foot control. It comes with it for you folks like me that are hard to diehards. But we're going to get over here and we're going to start here and we're going to push start. I'm going to reverse just like you would. Now, right here I can slow down my speed, only for the camera so you can see better. When I decide I'm done at the end and I want to reverse, I can just push reverse. It will go back 3 stitches, forward 3 stitches, and now I can reach up and I can cut my threads. Ta-da! Done. Now here's the fun part. I just put my fabric back under. I do not have to hold my threads. This is an old thread. I do not have to hold my threads. I do not have to turn my hand wheel, and I'm going to start sewing again. It's going to automatically reverse to me because I have it set up to reverse. But you know the reverse is the perfect stitch because it absolutely doesn't pucker. Of course I can go fast. I want to quit. It quits on its own. I'm not touching a foot control. I'm not touching nothing. My hands are right here. I reach up and cut the threads. If that isn't worth buying a new machine, I don't know what is. But what that makes is that you no longer have to hold your threads, lift up turn your hand wheel, do everything to even get started and hope you don't jam. So now what I'm going to do, so that's a stop start. I can just reach over here to my screen and I can tell it to do that automatically, which means now I don't have to reach up and touch my scissor button. So I'm just going to go a minute and show you. Back stitch, touch my reverse as soon as I wanted to, and it cut the threads for me. I have a knee lift that comes with it that I could have lifted the knee up as well. So that's something I should have had here, but with the camera view and what I'm trying to do, it's hard to show. But the knee lift is like Grandma's old machine where you used your knee lift to make the machine go. What a knee lift does is lift the presser foot up for you so you don't have to do that either. So that's a really nice feature. Simple things. Look how much close to the needle plate. I want you to look now how much heavier I can get underneath there. Look at that. Do you see how much more I got? That allows that to go up. We even have the famous black button that I'll teach you in your classes that will help you go over those denim seams. But what you're going to find now, and this is a heavy, heavy denim that I'm using here, but that I'm going to be able to just sew right over this, and I can go at a slow speed, walk right over it, and keep right on going. Now watch. Now, pretty cool, walking right over that thing, and I'm done. Now, can I double that up? Watch out. I just added 4 more layers to it, and I'll walk right over it too. Now, what you're going to find on the precision of this machine, and this is how I prove it to you, I can go through it 1 stitch at a time. That's power. That's called solid state, and it's got the generation power to go through it, and there is not a better made machine on the market that can do this as well. So do you see how I'm going through it? Of course I can go fast. The trick is that I got control going over it slowly. You can't do that on most machines. And look how many layers I have there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's bigger than the seams on the bottom of our jeans. And it's tough, 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 tough stuff you got there. So that right there is something that, my opinion, is one of the nicest features that they have on sewing machines. And this is the lowest price, basically, of any brand that's got the power to go through it no matter what it is. So sometimes you go across a purse and you're putting webbing on, and what a bear that is, this machine will walk over it. It's an exceptional machine. It's above a starter machine. It's not for just an occasional sewer. It's for someone who does everything, who's going to tackle anything that they want to tackle and wants to do it. I'd strongly suggest you look into this one. Okay, so quality-wise, it can't be surpassed. So let's go back over and just make sure you know what needle up, needle down is. So I'm still right here on my screen in the front. I want you to know how easy it is. So here's my stop button. So let's say I wanted to stop right there. Watch, it stopped by pushing the button, the dot with the circle with the dot. What that does is it calls for an automatic knot. So instead of it going backwards, you know, sometimes you don't want a backward stitch. You want to come on up forward and you're top stitching in the middle of your quilt or something. You'd like it to go knotted and pull to the bottom side, but you don't want to reverse, right? You don't want that look. So that's what that knot is going to do for you. It's probably my favorite friend on my machine between that and the scissors. I'm going to do it one more time so you make sure you see what I'm talking about. I'll slow it down. So let's say I wanted to stop right there. Now what did I do? I knotted it 4 times. You heard it cut. It cut it, and it pulled it back to the back. So one of my gals was just out there telling me how she was pulling all her threads through her quilt so that they would all be finished. And so she's pulling them and then tying them, which is pretty, we used to teach that, right? But with the machines now doing it like this, you're knotted. You can cut that off. You're finished. So I've never had it rip out. So to me, that's unbelievable. Okay, so let's finish the edge off of this denim. I want to show you, I always tell you to buy 7 stitches, and that's the basics of what someone has. So why on earth do you need a machine that does hundreds? Well, I'll tell you, there's cooler stitches. If you buy a basic $500 machine, you're probably going to get a knit overcast. If you go to something like this, I'm going to have an overcast specifically for denim. I'm going to have an overcast specifically for lightweight, like satins. It's not going to be as heavy duty as what the denim was. So in my machine here, I got a whole bunch of overcasting stitches here. And when you take my A to Z class, you're going to learn about each one of these and what they're for. So let's show you one that's perfected. It's like a serger. So if sometimes you want something that is double overcasted, so I'm going to go to number 17. So all I do on my machine is go here and go to 1, 7, and it's going to do the perfect stitch for me. So what this overcasting stitch is going to do is it's going to overcast the edges, sew the seam at the same time. Again, I'm slowing it down so you can see it better. Now look how wide that stitch is. Do you see how wide it is from left to right? That's called a 9mm stitch. Most machines are 5mm if it's over 10 years old, and other machines are only 7. Now why do we want 9? Because it gives us a perfect 1/4" seam, number 1. Let's cut my threads, it's good enough. Now let's see what I did. See how that's going to stop those ravelings dead, just like that. Now if I would have been smart enough to do it on a different piece of fabric, not where I just straight stitch, but let me show you. I think you're going to get the idea. That's my whole seam. So throughout my whole garment, that is my entire seam, overcasted, finished, stop the ravelings, everything all at one time. So have you heard of a serger stitch? A serger stitch does this and cuts the edges too. So this isn't going to cut the edges, but I think you can easily go like this. Now this double overlock has overlocked these seams, overlocked both edges. So compared to using it as a knit overlock, they're designed for different reasons. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go to 15. I'm only showing you 2 of 8. But when you're doing one on a knit, it's called tri-motion overlock, and you want that. So there's reasons for both of them. Now look, that's a little bit heavier, but look how I was just lifted that right on up and started going. See how I don't ever have to hold my threads, never have to fight it to get started. Might have to give it some speed. Now this stitch does quite a lot of stitching here, so I'm going to speed it up because I don't want to take up all your day. Okay, so speed up the foot control, the speed. Now what it's doing, take a look, you're going to see a lot of dancing going on. That's what I call it. Look at that needle. It's going backwards, forwards, and sideways. But you own a lot of athletic wear in your family nowadays. I think that's good enough to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to stop. I'll reach up, cut my threads. Now, what this stitch is doing is it's overcasting my edge. So watch, but it's going to stretch when you pull that jacket over your head or your yoga pants on. But here's the trick. Here it is. Watch now. It's going to come back in and it's going to be held back in shape. So there, right there is my whole seam sewn. That's all I have to do. You may choose to come back here and trim it up to make it look nicer. If I wasn't sewing sideways and trying to do it on a camera, I would have done this right along the edge. But do you see that's the appearance that you want is right there. So I'm turning sideways a little bit. See how nice it looks? Now with the Janome 5, it gives you a lot of presser feet. And there's a couple overcasting feet that keep you right along the edge and make it even easier for you. Too much for me to go through today, but in the attachment boxes, I don't have them in here because it's a brand new machine, you get lots and lots and lots of goodies, meaning everything that you need, which is really pretty cool on it too. So those are all going to come on in there. Now, let's go, and I want to do one more stitch that I think is very important. So what have I gained so far by this machine compared to any other machine? Number one is I gained a 9mm width here. A 9mm is on most top of the line machines, and what that's going to do is make your stitches look even prettier. Before I go to those, I want to go to a stretch straight, which is number 9, excuse me, number 9. So all I do is go to 0, 9. Now, what this stitch is doing is going up to back 1, up to, let's slow it down, up to back 1, up to back 1, up to back 1. Now I've shown you this stitch on a $300 machine. So what on earth is so great about this one? Do you see the stitch? So what that is for is crotch seams, sleeve seams, anything that's got a lot of tug and pull. But on my S5, it's the lowest price, I can change my stitch length on this stitch. So now what I'm doing is going up 2, back 1, but look what I got. Do you see how I was able to lengthen out the stitch length? Look what I got. I hope you can see that real well. Now that is the look of what you see on the bottom of your blue jeans. The bottom, your side seams. I use it for top stitching. Wherever I'm doing anything, you're going to use this stitch for top stitching. And it does an absolutely phenomenal job. So this machine is a little bit more precision than one that's a little bit less, and it's going to offer simple things for perfection, if you can kind of get a feel for what I mean. That stitch right there is one of my favorite and probably often used. Now, when you get this and you get in the book, or you take my A to Z class, or get in classes with us, there's a double needle. Did you know it can do a triple needle? 5 sizes of double needles. Now, why do you want that? Because it's going to go 2 rows of stitching, just like right down your clothing, and it's going to go perfectly for you. Now, you use this stitch with my double needle. Now I got 2 perfectly even rows of stitching. You see it a lot on the bottom of a t-shirt on athletic wear. You'll see 2 rows of stitching. In the back, it'll look like a zigzag. That's what a double needle is going to do for you. So you will learn all these things, and getting a machine like this is you need to take the commitment to learn what the cool things do. So quality-wise, it can't be beat for a couple simple reasons. Again, I can lift this up as high as I want to be able to get underneath there. Secondly, the bobbin is very simple to put in. Let's show you that real quick. It's something that as soon as you get a new machine, you're going to say, oh my goodness, I didn't know how hard things were when I remember what we used to do back 20 and 30 years ago, or even 10 years ago. I'm going to just place the bobbin in. And all I got to do is there's a little arrow right here. And all I do is move it from the arrow over to that arrow to over to number 2, and I'm done. I don't have to lift up my presser foot. I don't have to do any of that. Remember, it's a top of the line quality. When I start adding money from this one, I'm getting it to do more. I'm not adding more quality. I'm sure a little bit when you get way up there, but nothing that I think you ought to know. Now, why do you need all these stitches? Because people all the time call me up and say, well, I just want a basic sewing machine. I don't do any of that. Well, you don't do any of that because you haven't learned any of that. So in our classes, you'll learn how to blind hem. You'll learn how to sew on snaps. You'll learn how to do buttonholes. You'll learn how to do corded buttonholes, off the fabric blind hems. There's nothing that I don't do that I have to use with a hand sewing needle, because believe me, hand sewing needles and me are not acquainted. It's kind of funny. I had a babysitter at my house, and she was sewing in there, and she couldn't find a hand sewing needle. And I said, come on, who do you think I am? So it was just kind of funny. So now what are all these other stitches? Let's go over them. What I like about this machine is it doesn't give me tons. It does give me an alphabet. It does give me some fun, but it does give me a few decorative stitches over here. Okay, now, what is the rest of this? These are all left needle positions, your stretch straight. Oh, that number 10, you can sew on that, and you can take swimsuit fabric and it'll stretch. You can't break the stitch. Greatest stitch ever. You come on through here, we got different styles of buttonholes. We got sewing on buttons. We go to darning. These are your quilt stitches that you will use in different quilting techniques to be able to do it. Over here to the right, those are more heirloom stitches. Now I brought 2 of these pillowcases just to show you some things. And I don't know that you can see that well enough, so I brought, this was just a scrap of one. Okay, can you see the cream on the white a little bit better visually? Do you see that this we attached the lace on with an entredot stitch, and then we used an entredot stitch here that we will thread ribbon through, which is really cool. But these are stitches on here that are going to make it look like you've done this by hand, or Grandma did this by hand, and all you are is running a decorative stitch down. Now you don't know what you're going to be making, but this is nothing more than running, see, 9 millimeter, putting my lace on and done. So 4 or 5 rows of stitching, and I have made such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece like that. It's gorgeous because the stitches are wider, and the width is what is the 9mm that I'm talking to you about here as to what it does. You're going to have to push yourself to learn, because I can't stand it when people have these wonderful machines at home and then don't use half of them. But if you stay with me, I'll teach you. Take a look here, because these are some of the quilt stitches that are going to come on the machine. And all it is raw edge applique. I'm sure you all know how to do that. And then this is called a sashiko stitch. And if you look real close to that, it's going to look like it's been done by hand. That's on this sewing machine. So it's got a lot of bonus. Now look how we just did a blanket stitch here all the way around my binding. That's a very simple way. But do you notice how I can adjust it? And I can tell it to go to the left, I can tell it to go to the right, depending on what you're doing. I wanted to show you a little bit of fun things. And these are just things to see, but a lot of crazy patch quilting is very, very popular. And crazy patch quilting is this. So we do different stitches and we put them down. There's your sashiko stitch. See how long that looks? Doesn't that look? I don't know if you can get into that real good. I don't know if you can see, but that looks just like it's been done by hand. All of this is all the machines. So you put down a piece and you put down a decorative stitch and the machines do it for you. Crazy patch is a lot of fun ways to use up scraps. You might want to look, because I'm doing a video on that, to use up all our scraps. And we're using all our decorative stitches and then quilting it as you go, and that will give you a real good reason to say, okay, what do I do with things? But see, look like this. It's a cool stitch, but it's a grass stitch. So it makes it fun. Even here, you can see how we just were teaching. We were putting our different ribbons and trims on and using our decorative stitches and sewing over them. And it really is a cool technique. But even just look across here. Look how sharp that is. Okay, see how wide it is? That's what I'm talking to you about. So on this particular bag, we did a lot of top stitching. We did a decorative stitch here, and we just used some of our fun stuff. These are all over here done with double needles to make it easy. So we really want you to use the machine. Let me make sure I went over everything. Yeah, I think you got your heirloom stitches. What I like about this machine is over the next 20 years, if there's anything at all you get into, you might get into doll dresses someday, and you want to do some heirloom look and different things. Okay, you're going to have it. There's nothing that there's a class on the face of the earth, except embroidery, that you can't say, sure, my machine can do it. I like it a lot because it's a little bit bigger opening than most. So it's, again, what I call the baby of the top of the line, meaning it expanded its opening right here. So for an affordable price, your next step up on a sewing machine is going to be where this is going to open up to much, much, much bigger. But it's a lot more than what your machine does. So tons of fun. Okay, so now let's take a look at embroidery. Okay, everyone. So now we're going on to embroidery. So what about this machine compared to the S5? So basic same, we got a lot of the stitches, almost all the same as what we had. You can see up here the utility, buttonholes, applique, heirloom. We're into another level of a machine, so it's going to come with better goodies. Something like a straight stitch plate. Sounds like a silly thing, but your zigzag plate underneath your machine, when you do any of your overcasting or anything, it's important. But when you go to precision quilting, a straight stitch plate will not let the stitches pucker down at all, so that little ripple you get never happens. Those kind of things now come with this level of machine. So you're probably getting $200 to $300 worth of extra accessories here than what you are on a lower model. And if you get involved in using your whole machine, you will buy those anyway. So just something to think about. But the real reason to move up to here is one. What I'm going to do is I have an embroidery machine. So the way that this works, if you can see back here, is I have my hoop. There's my machine, okay, and I've added in an embroidery attachment what's going to come with this machine. And we're going to just screw it in back here. I love this model because the embroidery attachment goes this way. So you don't need as much space on your sewing machine this way as other brands. Janome's go back and forth, which makes it nice. Now let's look over here at the screen. What I earlier showed you was all these buttons and explained to you how great they are. So now all I did was go to an embroidery screen. I pulled up a handmade by, and then you can either put in your name or with embroidery, or you can put in your handwriting name, which we do a lot of friction pens, permanent marking pens, and label them ourselves. So that's kind of a fun thing. But I'll come back to the home screen when this is done. But what I'm going to do is just to start it. So I got a green light. That means everything's ready, I thought. So put the presser foot down. But did you notice it stopped me? So I can't go no place. It's going to tell me I can't. It would have cut off my threads if I would have done it from beginning, but I'm stopping in the middle of this design. So what it's doing is it's writing handmade by, it's 84 by 85 millimeters. It's taking 3 minutes. It's 2 colors, and it's sewing at 60 stitches per minute. 600 stitches per minute, which is a pretty good average machine. Now I'm using a rayon thread, polyester thread, something that's going to be washed. You're probably better off using a poly neon thread. You keep the rayons for your wall hangings and things you're really not going to wash. They'll give you a prettier sheen. So the difference of it is here is everything is right here for me. If you can look right here, it's already at 700 and now it's almost up to 800 stitches with a total of 1389 to go, 2 different colors. And then over here, I can change my size. I can change where my stitching is going to be, all by just pushing these different levels. I could have wrote a whole recipe out and used my lines right there, and I could have written out a complete recipe. I can change the colors as I want to. It's going to go ahead and sew this color for me until it stops. Then I'm going to have to change my color. Now on this machine, it comes with hundreds and hundreds of designs and all the letters and all the different fonts and different sized letters, because you can adjust them. It's going to come where you can put A, B, and C there, your initials, JMC, or you can put them as, the bigger one in the middle, whatever. Those all come on this machine. It's a lot more than a basic embroidery machine because it lets you change stuff inside of it and gives you more options. Eventually, okay, let's stop. I'll go to eventually in a second. Let's go here. I'm going to raise the presser foot. So I have to raise my foot. I'm going to cut my thread off. And this might be something for all of you to learn right now. I don't care what machine you have. We have to get in the habit of bringing this thread and holding it and pulling it through the needle. This little yard of thread, half a yard, 12 inches of thread, needs to be wasted. What we were taught was to take the thread and go and then wrap it around and keep it, right? All that's doing now is catching into the insides of my machine, and you cannot do that anymore. You can see in here on this one. It's a real nice feature that you can actually see, but you don't want to do that. If I could teach anybody that today to do on any sewing machine they have, I would save all of you a ton of money on repair bills. Because we have a service center, and believe me, that's 90% of the problems. So I'm going to just go ahead and thread the machine. It's just a 1, 2, 3, 4 thing. See the number 3? Come up, the take-up lever. Take-up lever, it finds its own place. You can't make a mistake. It's so heavenly. Come on down to number 5, and I'm going to bring the needle threader down. Now I'll try to keep my hands out of the way. The needle threader down, slide it around here, and up, and pow. It took the thread right through the needle. At my age, a needle threader, a good needle threader, is worth the money. So now it wants to go back and do the heart. And unfortunately, we're going to do a purple heart because that's what I have here. I was trying to do colors that would show up on screen. I'm going to let it take a couple stitches. And it's going to go ahead and stitch my heart for me. Now, the cool thing that you can do is that you can now buy embroidery designs. There's millions of them free on the internet. There's more that you can buy. There's almost anything that you could do. You could buy a software program, and we can now draw our own, digitize our own. So we're here in Cleveland, we've done the different logos. Of course, you're not going to go and sell the Cavaliers logo, but there's nothing wrong with you making them for your own home team and your own home family. So my high schoolers, you're able to take their school logo. Uh-oh, it looks like that heart's done. They're able to take their school logo from their Brunswick Bulldogs, and you're able to put that through a software program, tell it to do stitches, and your embroidery machine will stitch it out. So watch out how much you tell everybody that you got a new embroidery machine and you can do all this stuff, because the orders will come through like crazy. So I always keep it a little bit quiet and then surprise them. I love it when people buy them and then they make a whole bunch of gifts for the family and they didn't even know they could do all that cool stuff. But I know my husband's in golfing. They're always got golf tournaments and I have to do the shirts. My grandkids always are on a baseball team, and the mom wants, my daughter-in-law wants one that says the team name on it. It's fun, but those kind of things you can do in minutes. Now, one other thing about an embroidery machine is if you're a gift giver, that might be a decision maker for you. I personally am, but I'm also pretty frugal. So what happens is you can buy what I call blanks, and you can go to your local store and you can buy a blanket on the end cap that's discontinued for $4 to $6. And I always have 4 or 5 of them there. And when I hear that my neighbor's daughter's child had a baby, I can go put the name of the baby, the date of the baby, and send that over, and I have the nicest gift. And I haven't spent a lot. These were ones that I did for my daughter's wedding. So everybody that came to the shower, I did a sunflower and then just put it. So all I had to do was change from Pam to Karen to Tina, and everybody had one of these to be able to show everybody. This is stuff that you do in squares. So you got a big hoop here. This is a nice size hoop to start off with. A lot of embroidery machines only go 4x4, and then they go up to 5x7. Well, 5x7 is nice. 4x4 you'll outgrow, but 5x7, this is a 6x8. But you can see I can get these squares in here very, very easy. But isn't that pretty embroidery? These are little burp rags now. So if you can see this, I hope you can see it. We used a fluffy fabric here for sensory, and then this is the fringe. But it's all done on the embroidery machine, even the lettering. Isn't that cool? But it's just so simple. Now I'm going to blow your mind. The quilting was done on the embroidery machine. So all of this looks like the decorative stitches I've been teaching you, all on the embroidery machine now. These are just little mug rugs, the little things that we do with them. Now here's where it gets to be fun. This is an entire purse that is made 100% on the embroidery machine. See why I want you to get a bigger hoop? So that you can do this. Now, what this is, the zipper and everything is made on here. So the directions will tell you, it'll take a straight stitch and do like a rectangle there. You'll lay your zipper down, I tape it, and then it just click, 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 and it stitches right around your zipper. You're going to put your next piece of fabric on, like this, and then it falls down. The pockets, sewing this little baby together, 100% done on an embroidery machine. Now that's not a sewing machine. These are things I love to do, because look how pretty they are. They're just cute little things that you can make. Back to my zipper. Zipper in the hoop, applique, embroidery machine. If I'm getting you to say, oh, that's pretty cool, then you may want to spend a little bit more and get yourself an embroidery machine. If I'm showing you this and you're saying, I don't think I'd ever do it, then you know to go back to the S5. So these, I just want to show you what you can do, because these quilts are pretty. But again, they're just one square made in this machine, where if you can see good, it's stitched out, all applique, meaning I put fabric down and then I stitched over it, fabric down, stitched over it, and then we sew our squares together. So this is one of my favorites. I have to use it this weekend. So what happens, my grandson's birthday, but I'll have to change this out, because this is Zoe's, when Zoe was her birthday, but you can just change it to whosever name it is and it's hanging up. You know, the kids love these kind of things that are just traditions. So even here, I want to show you here. Can you see that quilting in here? So we sewed it all on a sewing machine, But then you would have had to go to a long arm. But what we did is hooped it. So I took this hoop, put it right there, let it do one of its designs, and off I go. I've quilted my whole quilt, and it went through both sides. So an embroidery machine can do lots. We are even quilting our whole quilt on the machine. So you can see here, so the stippling that's done on it, as well as the lettering that's done on it, is done on a hoop. So you're going to lay it down. It's going to go around and do your stippling. If you wanted to do lettering, move it, and you line up, and you line up, and you line up. These little guys over here help us line everything up. And the last one I'm going to show you, because this is pretty cute, but I think I'm so precious to it because I just got a brand new granddaughter last week. So, but do you see how this square is to this square? We made these squares by squares by squares. Then we went to the sewing machine to sew them together. So you would never think about making a bassinet like that, but it is about the cutest thing for a little baby doll, don't you think? And so sweet, but all you're doing is letting the machine run. So remember, when you're doing a whole square of stippling like that, probably takes 2 minutes, you can be cutting something out, you can go check your dinner. A lot of times with embroidery, I don't stay in the same room, or else I'm using one of my sergers or other sewing machines at the same time. But you're pushing the button, the machine's going. So in an essence, what is an embroidery machine going to do for you? It's going to be able to quilt your quilts. It's going to be able to make whole projects for you. You will make whole pot holders, stuff like that, right in the hoop. You also can do monogramming. You can do all the lettering. You can do any design on anything. So when one of your sons, grandsons, or somebody loves Transformers, I'm quite sure you can go to the internet and you can find a Transformer and you can put it on the back of his sweatshirt and make him the coolest kid out there. So there is literally nothing that you can't get onto here once you invest in software also, which can start at about $200, $150 to $200, just to give you a clue. So embroidery is all over clothing. You can do your jeans, you can do anything at all, and it's lots and lots of fun. I want you to make sure you get involved in our embroidery school and our A to Z school, because that's what's going to teach you all these cool techniques, is just to stay with us and keep yourself alert of what's going on. If you aren't using it, seek for more information, because it's out there, and it's very simple. Your first project of embroidery is going to be beautiful, I promise. The machine doesn't goof up. So if we know how to hoop, we're done. So pretty cool, huh? Okay, I want you to think about it. So if you're a gift giver, if you'd like to be able to embellish, maybe you'd like a new hobby, I strongly suggest you look at the 9850. It's a brand new machine, and it's because people who wanted the S5 and want the quality and the heavy duty now wanted to add embroidery. What a great little present for yourself. Think about it. Text us if you have any questions. Email us if you have any questions. We'll be glad to help you. Thanks. See you again.